Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner. In this video I'm going to be talking about Cardfight Vanguard in the Japanese metagame because this is something I've just been wanting to do for a while now, where I start making videos talking about the OCG format and just what we can be expecting out of it, as much like how it used to be in Yu-Gi-Oh! When things do really well in Japan, North America takes notice and we kind of start hyping stuff up, and as a result cards get expensive. Classic examples include Sweep Command Dragon, Sanctuary Guard Dragon, recently Chaos Breaker Dragon, and well, it's happening again with Thing Saver Dragon because at the recent Sakura VGCS tournament, a new deck for Royal Paladins called Thing Blaster got first and second place, while also topping and getting some other tops here and there. Like, this thing literally just came out of the woodworks this past weekend and it's already making an impact. Now, the reason why that this deck is seeing play, among other things, is number one, Secret Thing Saver Dragon is a ridiculous card. It always has been and it always will be. It's just that Secret Thing Saver Dragon kind of fell out of play because the Sanctuary Guard deck needed to use its soul for Starlight Violinist, as shown in this photo. Yes. Yeah, it's still running Violinist. So you needed your soul for your Violinist and your whatever this thing's called, Miron? I think it's called. I think this is Benon and this is Miron. So you needed your soul for other stuff. So Thing Saver Dragon ultimately got dropped from the deck. And granted, Thing Saver Dragon, Sanctuary Guard is still doing well. Like, here's a build that ran Barkles in it because Barkle can fetch out Local and Lu, I believe. I forget how Barkle specifically works. I just know he calls out units so that, and because they're grade 0 and less, and because this guy can be searched out by Sanctuary Guards on ride, you can just fill up your field with grade 0s and then buff your front board by plus 9,000 power immediately for his Regalia Stride effect. Interesting to know that only running 2 Regalias, so it's like Japan already knows that this guy's probably getting semi-restricted, and they're trying to play the deck accordingly, so it's just starting to become alt-null toolbox. But anywho, so we have Sanctuary Guard, but back to Thing Blaster. So this deck. So what makes this deck good? First off, with the release of set 6, you've gotten more support for Matches of a Blaster, which makes it a lot easier to set this guy up. And because Matches of a Blaster requires you will end up putting multiple cards in Soul, it becomes considerably easier to get Thing Saver Dragon's vaunted 3-attack turn off. And a triple Thing Saver Dragon push is never easy for decks to deal with. Restanding Vanguards are ridiculous, and because of new support, you also have a restanding Blaster Blade that pass triggers onto in case your opponent's able to block all 3 Thing Saver attacks, which they're probably going to take 1 at some point just because it is 22 unboosted, so it's 20k shield, 2 pass, 25 no pass. That could still take a lot out of your hand. You also have your G units. Let's see, Saint Blow Dragon gets big and scary. The crit. Religious Soul Saver makes your board big and scary, and it also gets a crit. Alt Mel, Blade on hit, and Madu allows you to stride on top of more Matches of a Blaster and get back a Thing Saver Dragon you may have had to pitch earlier for a stride or what have you. You have Matches of a Blaster for the early game, Alt Mal for stride plays. Favorite Disciple of Light and Darkness, Liu, allows you to put him into the soul and call a Blaster Blade out of your deck. Let's see, Blaster Friend Barkle is a Dorant for Blaster Blade, so if you call a Blaster Blade out, you counter to 1, so that makes Blaster Blade's on-call retire skill basically CB1 pop any 2 or greater. It's pretty good. Let's see, Blaster Rapier Laurel is just a 7k Blaster unit, so you can just boost it. Like, Ringo Brave now has, let's see, 2, 6, 8, 12, 13, 14? Yeah, there's a lot of things for Wingo Brave to boost and hit, so this thing is going to go off unless your opponent is playing a deck that can kill the starter. But the thing I've noticed with Japanese deck lists is they generally don't run anti-starter cards, with the exception of Gear Chronicle running... is he in one of his lists? No, he's not in this list. Oh no, there's Relic Master Dragon, but it's usually like the 8k grade 2 that allows you to tuck a starter. But aside from that, though, Wingo Brave is usually safe in the Japanese format, whereas here in North America, we're more inclined to kill it. You've also got Flow Flag and Paladin Flogel, who, if I remember correctly, is after it boosts a Blaster Blade, you can shuffle it into the deck to restand the Blaster Blade. Something along those lines. I just know, like, this allows you to get multiple Blaster Blade side column attacks off, which is pretty strong. So you have something to pass your Thing Saver crits onto. And the thing about this deck too is that Thing Saver Dragon gives you a better matchup against Chaos Breaker, which has a better matchup against Sanctuary Guard because Sanctuary Guard kind of has problems dealing with block. Thingsaver Dragon doesn't care about lock as much. If you lock a column, that's fine. You can just call down your Blaster Blade column and attack a Thingsaver multiple times. Think Joker player has to burn his hand in order to block those, and then you just attack with your restanding Blaster Blade. Like, Chaos Breakers always had problems dealing with decks that have restanding Vanguards, which is kind of why it fell out of favor. Like, why Chaos Breaker just struggled during Legion format, among other things, and why the Ace is one of its more difficult matchups. Is that Kagura doesn't care if you lock the column down, you're still going to swing with a big bad giant Vanguard. So you have that going for you. Two of these things topped, and then another deck to appear back into the fold, Revengers, in particular Raging Form Dragon. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting just like a more consistent Phantom Blaster Mordred build, but instead we have this thing. I don't know if this is going to be like the standard bearer, but it definitely is something worth noting. Like, first off, this guy was not running Spectral Blaster Diablo. That surprised me. Both Shadow Paladin players I've talked to around here said they were going to cut Phantom Blaster down to 2 and run 4 Spectral Blasters instead, because restanding is generally better than what Phantom Blaster does, but maybe not so much. Let's see, he ran 2 Aura Geyser Dragons. Aura Geysers are really good for Stride. Drag with a Renevent. This is a card that I've always felt is really good in the deck. It's just, you don't really have like the space, I guess. Like, I guess you would run one of this and one Grim Revenger before. Grim Recruiter. And Aura Geyser Doomed as the last one. I forget how this guy works, but anyway, so you have that. Let's see. Thanks to the new support, Raging Form Dragon is a lot easier to get off consistently, as you have a new unit that allows you to search a copy of what you have on Vanguard. So you search out a Raging Form, you got the guaranteed 2 attacks off of it. Potentially you could get 3 attacks with it, as you have a unit that replaces itself when it gets sacked off by a Revenger Vanguard. So you actually have the ability to just attack with a Raging Form line, or with a side line, attack Raging Form sacks 3, call another one, and you call another unit back. You attack on another sideline, then you attack with Raging Form, eat 3, bring on another Raging Form, and swing again. It's not as consistent as the Thing Blaster deck, but it's still something to take note of. And otherwise, it looks like it's just your typical Revenger deck. And then we have the 4th place deck in Gear Chronicle. Now this build's a much more traditional one as opposed to the more wonky ones that I've seen. You know, this build here. This is from another tournament that I figured I'd just take a look at, as it runs some neat cards. Let's see, most notably this other grade 3 you see here is called Metal Guarded Dragon. When you call it on rearguard, you can tuck one of your opponent's grade 1 or less rearguards, or is it just strictly grade 1? You tuck a grade 1 and or below from the rearguard, which is always nice because it's something you can time leap your grade 2s into after they've done their job. You can just swing the Relic Master Dragon at something and then time leap him into this and tuck basically an entire column for free, or for very little. You have that build, and we have this build that's just ran a more traditional one with 4 Bailiffs, 3 Upstream, 3 Caliban. That's his name. This is the one that tucks starters. 3 History Maker, 2 Clock Fencer. This one is like iffy, but the thing basically is that Gear Chronicle is at that point where no 2 lists will ever be the same. I mean, this guy's running Chronos Command Revolution and Chronos Command, whereas this guy's running a more Metallica Phoenix based build. As such, is only running 5 grade 3s, but 3 starters, because this other one, TikTok Worker, allows you to time leap another unit. I'm trying to remember what this unit here is. I'm pretty sure this is the when you time leap it, when you find it from rearguard circle, you pump a unit up by 5k, which is pretty good. Oops, that's for later. But most importantly though, both these lists are running the Stand Shaker, Steam Battle, or Watar, whose effect is when you find it from rear, you can shuffle, put them on the bottom of your deck, draw 2 cards, put one from your hand into your deck and shuffle. So he replaces himself when you time leap it. He allows you to put time leap targets from your hand back in the deck, or triggers if need be. And most importantly, because he's a 0, you can call it out with Mellum and then time leap it with your upstream, with your History Maker Dragon. And the basic game plan of the Gear Chronicle deck at this point is you're utilizing Upstream and Mellum to call out 1s and 2s that you can then time leap into other things and continue your combo plays, which is pretty good. Like, it's really neat how Gear Chronicle is finally starting to come into its own. I wasn't seeing immediate play when the new stuff came out, and that was because Japan had this perception of if it has to be on 3 to do stuff, it's not good, but they're finally starting to come around to the fact that, oh hey, this deck's actually really, really good when it gets rolling, and next stage is just really difficult for decks like Chaos to deal with because it's a restanding Vanguard, and its second attack is a Glory. So we have that. And then the other notable thing to come out of this particular tournament is that Night Rose got a top 8. That's right, Grand Blue topped, which is actually really nice to see because I'm trying to pick this deck up. I've got a good portion of the cards ready for this. I actually have a 7 C's build ready to go, but anyway. So Night Rose topped, and it topped another tournament too. So here's another list, and then in another tournament, 7 C's got a top 2. So both variations of Grand Blue are actually performing well in the format, and it's actually not that difficult to see why. You have Ghosty Great King Obadalia, who is the King Boo stride here over here. This thing is ridiculous as a first stride, as it allows you to dump 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard on stride. And if you dump 2 units with a hollow effect, this way you can special summon your your ghosty unit with a normal type ghosty unit from your drop zone. So basically your stride enabler, Tommy the Ghosty Brothers, you can call it behind your Vanguard when you use Ghosty, the Great Ghosty. Wow, names are hard. So the deck has basically a painful choice stride, and then you can just call back one of the things you dump with Night Rose, and one of the things you can call back is Negro Lazy, who on call calls out a grade 2 or less unit from your drop zone, and then in a turn, and then you also have your hollow options. So the deck's Grand Blue itself is fairly aggressive. Your hollow effects give you some really powerful things in exchange for killing off your units at the end of turn, like Ghoul Dragon, Gas Dragon by himself is normally just a big beefy beat stick, but if he uses hollow effect, he is a 19k attacker by himself, which is pretty crazy. Let's see, Negro Crook is more or less the same thing. Oh yeah, Pojo censors Negro because of potential racial connotations. I wonder how Bushiroad's going to do it over here. Necro would probably be the best way to go. So that's why you're wondering. That's why you got these things. So you have these big beefy attackers, or having other things like Skeleton Cannoneer is actually really strong. It's on call, kill something, and then if you hollow it, you also draw him and he dies. And the hollow effect is actually really good at the moment because it allows you to kill off your units so decks like Chaos Breaker can't lock your stuff. All they can do is use Universe to lock something from your hand face down, and even if they do kill it with Chaos Breaker's Limit Break, you can just bring it back later, or you can use Night Rose's card effect to bring it back herself, which has some neat little interactions, which I'll get into when I eventually talk about Grand Blue, but needless to say though, the issues of Counterblast are actually not as bad as you think they are, as the deck can potentially unflip 4 Counterblast in a turn. 7 C's is a bit faster as it has an early game due to less gen break units, what with Slash Shade and Ruin Shade. This list, by the way, I don't wholly agree with, but it's a good starting point. This list I actually do like. I might proxy this. I don't know yet. It depends on how much printer ink I have. And then another top worth mentioning is Tachikaze. Yes, right, G Tachikaze finally got a top. It's just your G-based Tachikaze deck, so just Dogma. Unfortunately, I don't know all these cards, but if you're a Tachikaze player, then you probably do know what these things are. I do notice he's running the Engorged Perfect Guard, so that means his backup grade 3 is the On Ride. It's kind of a Soul Blast 1, look for an Engorged unit. And that's just more or less what I thought Tachi would be doing at this point, is to just take advantage of the fact that you have a more or less Phantom Blaster Abyss that's just big, and you can call back a line to put those things onto. This deck actually looks like it'd be really fun to play. It's just I don't really want to invest in Tachikaze. Gone over this, and gone over this. So that's pretty much it. So what can we take out of this? Basically, set 6 is going to be doing a lot more to the format than we thought we are. If you haven't picked up Things Saver Dragons, or you have them lying around, you might want to consider, or if you haven't picked up Things Saver Dragons and you want to, it's going to be more difficult. And if you have them lying around, you might want to consider getting rid of them because the hype for this card is starting to drive its price up again. Same for, I think, some of the Magic Alert cards. And if you're playing Grand Blue, well, you don't have to feel so bad about investing in the deck anymore because it's actually going to be good. Unfortunately, this means that Miss Phantasm Pirate King Night Rose is going to be expensive, but she'll be like $30 and the only really pricey card of the deck. And that's pretty much all I got to say in this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Tell me if you want me to do more videos like this in the future, because I probably will, but I'd still like to hear your thoughts on this. And until the next time, this is Blue Star 89, jacking out.